Hey boys and girls, welcome back to your homework. Tonight we're going to do Module 1 and our second end of module review, our part 2. So last night you did half of the questions that I was looking for you to review, and tonight I'm going to give you another 5 questions. As always, with any type of review homework, I want you to pause the video here and I want you to do the entire sheet. So all 5 questions, front and back, I want you to do on your own. However, don't forget about the rest of this video, because I want you to come back and check your work with me. So that is super important, that I know that you're trying some problems, you're seeing how you do on your own, and then coming back and seeing what the correct answer is and how I achieved the final answer of the problem. This also helps you know what you need help with. For a particular skill, if you keep getting wrong, that's something that you need to share with me. So with that being said, make sure you pause the video here, try all 5 problems on your own, and when you're finished, come back and check your work with me. All right, boys and girls, let's get started going over your questions. First problem, number 6. If one bicycle wheel weighs 3 4/10 pounds, how much would 4 tires weigh all together? And I see that I made a little typo error, huh? So for my cyclists out there, a wheel and a tire are actually 2 different things. There's a wheel well, and then there's a tire that goes on top of it. But we're gonna say that they are the same thing just for this problem. So we know the tire itself, the entire circular motion that pushes the bicycle forward, weighs 3 4/10 pounds. And they wanna know how many would 4 weigh all together. So we can do this 2 different ways. We can either multiply by 4, or we can do some repeated addition. So we can add 3 4/10 4 times. 3 4/10, 3 4/10, so whichever way you did it, ultimately there are 2 different ways to solve this problem. So let's do the multiplication first. So first I'm gonna take 4, which is my multiplier, and multiply it by the 4 in the tens place. 4 times 4 is 16. I'm gonna bring down my 6, carry my 1. Next, I'm going to multiply 4 times 3, which is 12, and then I'm going to add 1 more to get 13. Now, my answer is not 136 because I have a decimal. So always think about how many places is behind the decimal, and I'm going to move that many in. So I see that I'm multiplying by a tenth, so my answer has to represent a tenth. So 13 6/10 is the correct answer, and we're going to label it with pounds, because it says a conversion, or excuse me, a measurement. So we always want to make sure that we are labeling. However, you could also do repeated addition. So over here, I'm going to add 4 to itself 4 times. So 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. And 12 plus 4 is 16. Again, bring down my 6, carry my 1, and I'm going to bring down my decimal. Now I'm going to do some repeated addition for 3's. 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 plus 3 is 10. And 10 plus 3 is 13. So I'm going to bring down my 3 and bring over my 1. And again, I get the same answer, no matter if I do multiplication or repeated addition. Nice job, boys and girls. Hopefully you got that one right. If not, make sure you correct your work. And let's move on to number 7. All right, boys and girls, it says to add 24 tenths plus 9 tenths plus 94 hundredths. So with that being said, I'm thinking about my place value chart. I know the tenths place is always the first digit after the decimal. We have the tenths, then the hundredths, and then the thousandths. So if I'm thinking about that, when it says 24 tenths, I know between my decimal, the 4 has to land in the tenths place, right? So that means the 2 comes before it. So 24 tenths looks like this, 2.4. Then I'm going to add to it 9 tenths, which I know looks like this, 0.9, and I'll just say 0.9, so I have a number underneath the tool. And then it says 94 hundredths. Well, again, I know my tenths place, then my hundredths place, so the 4 has to go in the hundredths place, so 94. So I have some blank spots that I want to add in some zeros, so I'm going to put a 0 in front of the decimal, and then a 0 above my 4. So now I have the same number of digits in every single column. So now let's add them up. So starting with 0, 0 plus 0 is 0, plus 4 is 4. Starting with the second column, 4 plus 9 is 13. 13 plus 9 is 22. 2, and carry my 2, and I'm going to bring down my decimal so it's nice and lined up. And now I'm going to add the last column. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 0 is still 4. So my final answer should be 4 and 24 hundredths. Nice job to those that got that correct. That was a little tricky with not having any decimals. All right, question number 8 says 7 minus 1 and 46 hundredths. So I'm going to start with my 7 because that comes first in the problem. I know that's always going to be the first digit on top. And then I'm going to subtract 1 and 46 hundredths. Well, I know that my 7 is in the ones place because it doesn't have a decimal. So I'm going to add a couple of zeros. So I know 7.00. And again, because it's the first number in the problem, it's going to be the number that I start with on top of my subtraction problem. Underneath, I'm going to line up my digits. 1 is in the ones place, the 4 is in the tens place, and the 6 is in the hundredths place. And now I can subtract. All right, so subtraction, remember, I have to take 6 away from 0, but I can't do it because there's nothing there. So I go to the next place. Uh-oh, still nothing. So I have to go to my ones place. I see a 7 there, so I'm going to do a little borrowing. So 7 changes to 6. Now I'm going to take one whole and make it 10 tenths, right? But uh-oh, I still need to borrow again. So I'm going to cross the 10 tenths out, make it 9 tenths, and take that 10 tenths and now make it, or 1/10 and make it 10 hundredths. So now I can regroup and say I have 10 minus 6, which gets me to 4. Now subtract the next place. 9 minus 4 is 5. Bring down my decimal. And 6 minus 1 is also 5. So correct answer for this is 5 and 54 hundredths. Next question, it says 9. Write the standard form of 4 times 1 plus 14 times a tenth plus 76 times a hundredth. All right, so this one was a little tricky, but I know you can do it. So thinking about our place value. So first I'm thinking 4 times 1. Well, I know 4 times 1 equals 4. Plus, think about what 14 times a tenth is. 14 times a tenth is 14 tenths. But how do I write that? 14 tenths. Well, no, after my decimal point, I have the tenths place. So the 4 and the 14 has to go behind it. So 14 tenths is the same thing as 1 and 4 tenths plus 76 hundredths times the hundredths. So 76 has to land in the hundredths place. So we know after the decimal, it's the tenths, then the hundredths place. So 76 hundredths look like this. So I can also add a 0 in front of it too. So now I have 4 plus 1 and 4 tenths plus 76 hundredths. So that's not my answer though. I have to actually add those up. So let's do that down here. So I'm going to say 4, and I'll add some decimals in, 4.00 plus 1 and 4 tenths plus 76 hundredths, 0.76. All right, now let's add those up to see if we can get the correct answer. So 0, first column, 0 plus 6 is 6. Next column, 0 plus 4 is 0. Or 0 plus 4 is 0. 0 plus 4 is 4, plus 7 is 11. Bring down my 1, carry my 1, and bring down my decimal. And then last column, 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 0 is still 6. So the correct answer for this one was a little tricky, is 6 and 16 hundredths. All right, boys and girls, last problem. It's a division problem. We're going to take 429 and 1/10, and we're going to divide it by 7. So don't forget our little acronym on the side. Does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers rare? So the very first thing I'm going to do is divide and see how many groups of 7 I can make in just the first digit, which is 4. And I can't make any because 4 is smaller than 7. So I'm going to say 0 times. And next I'm going to multiply that 0 times the 7. 0 times 7 is 0. When I subtract, I get 4. Now, after subtraction, I'm going to check, is 4 less than 7? Yes, it is. So the next step is I'm going to bring down my next digit. So I'm going to bring down my 2. And now I have regroup to 42. So now let's divide again. How many times does 7 go into 42 this time? And if you said 6 times, you are correct. 6 times 7 is 42 exactly. So I can subtract and I get 0. But don't forget, we're going to check. Check to see if 0 is less than 7. If it is, then you can bring down the next number. If it isn't, if it's bigger, know that this number can go higher, right? So let's bring down the 9 though, because we are good. And now start all over. We're going to regroup. We have 9 now. Divide again. How many groups of 7 can we make if we have 9? Only one group. So we're going to put a 1 up at the top. Now multiply. 7 times 1 is 7. Subtract. 7 minus 9 is 2. Check. Is 2 less than 7? Yes, it is. So I'm going to bring up my decimal this time, one extra little step, and bring down my last digit, which is 21 now. I'm going to regroup too. So I'm going to divide. How many times does 7 go into 21? And if you said 3 times, you are exactly right, because 3 times 7 is 21. So my final answer should be 61 and 3/10. And that's the correct answer on that one. Great job, boys and girls. I hope you did an awesome job reviewing. Tomorrow is our end of module test. So I hope you feel comfortable. I hope you get a lot of these questions right. And great job working hard on your review. I will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful night.